Quit your scrolling and trolling and catch the biggest.
Hey everyone, it's Samia Khan here with your Fox 10 News Now update. Hope you are having a wonderful Labor Day. Happy Monday afternoon. Hope you guys are enjoying your day, your long weekend if you're at home. Hope you're having a good day at work if you're working today, laboring on Labor Day as I like to call it. I, along with a handful of others in the newsroom, are actually working on Labor Day. In fact, if you want to see who's here, I'll just show you. Boom! You can't really see too many people, but you can see that there are other people in the newsroom besides just me. Obviously, the news does not stop just because it is a holiday. We still have shows to put on television and right here on the internet. So thank you guys for joining us and interacting with us and sharing your thoughts and comments and opinions. I know this morning we started things off a little... we started with politics, but then eventually things got a little sad and depressing because we did bring you a live feed of the funeral of the officer who was shot and killed in Fox Lake, Illinois. And then we also had a playback of the funeral for the officer who was shot and killed at a gas station in Texas. So it was a very somber morning on Labor Day, on the Labor Day edition of News Now. So I promise we will not be carrying any more funerals today on News Now. Instead, we'll be talking about some major news, definitely in the world of politics, because a lot of different politicians speaking at different places. We saw Carly Fiorina, Hillary Clinton, Scott Walker, President Obama. There's a lot going on. And so since we're probably going to have a show that's heavily political today, I figure I will start with Fox News' daily presidential race story. They send one of these stories to us from Fox National every single morning, every single day, and I will play this one for you now.
A possible surge for Bernie Sanders. The Vermont senator leads Hillary Clinton by 11 points in New Hampshire. That, according to a new NBC Marist poll. The former Secretary of State enjoying a 13-point lead over Sanders in July. Clinton still leads in Iowa, but Sanders cut into that as well.
They like Sanders for his personal attributes, not a position on any particular issue, but they think he has more appealing personal attributes than Hillary Clinton does.
Clinton campaigning in both states the past several days as she continues to deal with investigations into her personal email server during her time as secretary. She claims she's anticipated a close race all along and says she's going to work hard for every vote in the Granite State.
I've always thought this was going to be a competitive primary, and I welcome that. I think that this is a contest. It's a contest of ideas, of policies, of how we present ourselves to the American people.
The only other female candidate keeping the pressure on Clinton, Republican Carly Fiorina, knocking her for using the war on women rhetoric and slamming the 16 other GOP hopefuls in the process.
I feel sometimes as though I'm the only candidate who's consistently been critical of her. The truth is, Mrs. Clinton has lied as Secretary of State about Benghazi, about her emails, about her server.
Staying with the Republicans, the new poll shows Donald Trump with a 16-point lead in Iowa and 7-point lead in New Hampshire. In Washington, Doug McKelway, Fox News.
All right, Doug, thank you for that report. Now to continue playing some of our stories from Fox National, I am now going to play for you this one that details what Biden and Obama were up to this Labor Day. As you know, President Obama keeping busy despite the fact that everyone else seems to be campaigning around him, including Joe Biden. I'm not going to say that it's campaigning, but let's just say Joe Biden's been making a lot more public appearances ever since there's been speculation that he may run for president. Still no official word. We'll obviously keep you posted. Joe Biden said that he would make a decision by the end of the summer. As we know, the official end of summer / beginning of fall, I believe, is around September 21st or so. So my guess is we'll get an answer from Biden sometime in the next couple weeks. In the meantime, let's watch this story, courtesy of Fox National, about Obama and Biden's day today.
The Obama administration pulling out all the stops to show solidarity with union leaders on this Labor Day. The president making remarks to the Greater Boston Labor Council and signing an executive order requiring paid sick leave for employees of federal contractors. Under the new rules, workers will get a minimum of 1 hour of paid leave for every 30 hours of work, and that can add up to roughly 7 days per year.
Let's face it, nobody wants a waiter who feels like they have to come to work when they're coughing or contagious. But if they don't have sick leave, what are they going to do?
Vice President Joe Biden also hailing the achievements of the labor movement, linking it to the rise and fall of the middle class.
There wouldn't be a single basic right out there were it not for anyone working, but for labor.
The increased focus on labor comes as some union groups remain deeply skeptical about the president's commitment to the middle class, citing stagnant wages, rising inflation, and a strong push to secure new trade deals in Asia and Europe, which unions say could lead to widespread job losses here in the states. That concern echoed by some Democratic lawmakers on this Labor Day.
No one should lose a job in a trade deal that benefits giant corporations and leaves workers in the dust.
Meanwhile, the president's speech in Boston was actually boycotted by a union. The New England Police Benevolent Association said they skipped the speech because of what they're calling a clear lack of support for law enforcement from the president. At the White House, Kevin Cork, Fox News.
All right, Kevin Cork, thank you for that update as far as what Obama and Biden are doing this Labor Day. Speaking of Labor Day, Joel Wallman did a story for us talking about the politics of Labor Day and what you're doing if you're a politician this holiday weekend.
The Labor Day holiday is all about backyard barbecues and weekend getaways, but if you have White House aspirations, Labor Day is actually when the real work begins.
I think Labor Day is important because Labor Day traditionally signals kids are going back to school, people are turning their focus away from the beach in the summer, and they're saying, what's ahead in the campaign?
I am announcing that I'm running for President of the United States.
With candidate announcements coming as early as March this past year, it may surprise some that for decades, September used to be the traditional time for campaign kickoffs. But with the cost of launching a presidential bid skyrocketing over the years, there's more pressure now than ever to enter the race early.
If you haven't raised the money, if you don't have the infrastructure, if you're not ready to go in Iowa, New Hampshire, just a few short months away, you can be in trouble.
With 17 Republican candidates and 5 Democrats already in the race, the 2016 nomination process is expected to be the costliest in history. Real estate mogul Donald Trump already said he's willing to spend about $1 billion of his own money as long as he continues to do well in the polls.
It's always been important money deadline. It's always sort of been the real traditional launch internally inside the campaign of the bear down and drive through Iowa, New Hampshire. I mean, the real launch, the start of the hand-to-hand combat in those key states.
While there's no shortage of candidates, there is growing dissatisfaction with some of the choices on both sides of the political aisle. Several Democratic candidates could make a late-inning entry into the race as Hillary Clinton's growing private email server controversy continues to plague her campaign. Among the names tossed around, former Vice President Al Gore and current Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. President Obama has even given his blessing for a Joe Biden run.
Somebody's not in the race by then doesn't mean they can't make a run for it, but if they're getting in after Labor Day, they've made it a lot tougher.
It's a calculated risk. Longer campaigns are both a blessing and a curse. The early announcements tend to get more media attention, but there's also the possibility that a candidate can peak in popularity too soon. In Washington, Joel Waldman, Fox News.
All right, Joel Waldman, thank you for that report. I think that covers all the political stories sent to us from Fox National this morning. Let's see, I got the presidential race overview. Yep, we did Obama and Biden on Labor Day. Check. The politics of Labor Day. Check. The only one that's sort of political that was sent to us today is the fact that some people want the Reagan International Airport renamed in D.C. So maybe it's a national airport, not an international, but the Reagan Airport. Some people want it to be renamed. And I guess since it is named after a president, this falls into the realm of politics, technically. So I'm going to play this for you as well.
The petition, tell John Boehner, rename Ronald Reagan Airport. To restore the airport's name back to Washington National Airport. Feelings at the airport, though, are mixed.
I think that's just silly. I mean, frankly, we have so many much more significant issues to deal with in Washington, D.C.
I think it's appropriate to change it back to Washington because it represents the area and our historic city of Washington, D.C.
Of course, with the names of two presidents involved, political opinions are close behind.
It represents our history and more of our heritage of America. And Ronald Reagan was a good president, but he wasn't a great president.
Well, Washington's the name of the city already and everything else. And I think Reagan was an excellent president. I think it was a smart move to honor his memory and put it in his name. And I think changing it back would just take that away.
But really, what's in a name?
I'd probably fly in here the same, and I'd feel real good about it. They can leave his statue out front. I mean, that's cool. But, Washington International, that really sounds like it's America.
When I'm in a rush, I say, oh, take me to Washington Airport. Sometimes I say DCA, sometimes I say Reagan National Airport. So I don't get the point of spending any energy on something like this.
The petition has already gathered over 50,000 signatures. Only time will tell where it goes from here.
I think they'll get a lot more. I think they'd have a lot of support to see it turn back to Washington.
Again, if they had uncovered something totally salacious and illegal done by him, one would question it. But, it's not like it's the Nixon National Airport.
Kelly Ozair, Fox 5 Local News.
All right, so I wanted to just acknowledge one of our viewers, Tess, who said, "Hi, leave Reagan alone, ha ha ha." So it looks like Tess does not want the airport renamed. In the meantime, Apple Snapple questioning, if McCain was running for president again, what food would he eat on camera? Apple Sample is referencing my theory that if you are running for president, you must eat on camera, as we have seen many, many candidates eat delicious meals while on the campaign trail. For example, Jeb Bush eating lobster rolls in New Hampshire. We saw Scott Walker eating a deli sandwich in Ohio. We've seen Chris Christie, as well as, I want to say, Ted Cruz eat at the Iowa State Fair. Basically, we've seen many presidential candidates eat, I think is what Apple Snapple is getting at. Speaking of presidential candidates, one individual I have not seen eat on camera yet is Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is in Iowa today campaigning. I believe she had at least three different campaign events today, and this is one of them. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. And right after this, Dave Munsey is going to join me with a full weather update. I don't know if you've been outside, but it is, or at least it was raining. It was raining when I went to go get lunch, is all I'm going to say. If you want more details, you're going to have to listen to Dave Munsey in about 15 minutes.
Be here with all of you. I am from Illinois originally. And it's always good to be here. And I also couldn't help but think about former Congressman Lane Evans as I was sitting here. He was someone that I admired and had a chance to work with in the past. Doug, thank you for putting this together, making this happen, and to all of you for coming out on Labor Day to be with us. I am honored to be here amongst you on behalf of what really made this country great, working people, men and women, people who did their best, gave their best, served their country, helped to create the middle class, which is one of the best inventions that the United States ever gave to ourselves or the world. And it would not have happened without the American labor movement. So I know, standing here before you, that one of my principal jobs as your president will be to defend the right to organize and bargain collectively on behalf of hard-working Americans. Now, Dave Loebsack's absolutely right. We're going to need more Democrats in Congress. And we're going to need people like him. He is the last Democrat in the federal delegation from Iowa. Some of you from Iowa know that. We lost Tom Harkin, a great senator, someone that Dick and I were privileged to serve with. So we've got to help your neighbor across the river elect more Democrats, starting by sending Dave back to the Congress. And Dave, it means the world to me to have you endorse me and caucus for me on February 1st. Thank you. And I think you're awfully lucky to have Sherry representing you. Her determination, her energy, her smarts. I have watched her rise. I was thrilled when she was elected. I can't wait to work with her on behalf of all of you. And let's really do the right thing by getting everybody you know. And I mean this. When you leave here today and we all get back into the busyness of our lives, talk to your friends, your neighbors, your family, people you work with about Tammy Duckworth and why she should be the next senator from Illinois. I cannot imagine anybody who can better represent the dreams and aspirations of the people of Illinois. And we know enough about her that she is dogged, she's determined, she doesn't give up. She'll take on anybody, anytime, anywhere on behalf of her values and the causes and people she believes in. So please, before you leave today, commit to doing everything you can to making her the next senator. And I know Dick Durbin will be happy about that. He has been the biggest advocate for Tammy for all those 12 years. I can remember when he talked to some of us in the Senate about this amazing young woman who was going to run for Congress. You know, you're lucky to have Senator Durbin representing you, and he has the best combination of a head and a heart that you can find. He's obviously incredibly smart, but he also really feels things deeply. And I can't wait to work with him. I enjoyed working with him when I was in the Senate for 8 years. And I'm really looking forward to working with him when he represents you and we fight together to make sure that our country lives up to the dreams that we should be able to offer to every one of our people. You know, I'm running for president because I believe that we have a very big challenge facing us right now. We've got to have a Democrat in the White House come January 2017. And that's not just because I am one, and not because I'm running to be the one. Just look at what works best for America. America does better. The economy does better. Now, it's quite unfortunate that in the last 35 years, we've had 5 presidents, 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. I happen to know both the Democrats. Each of them inherited big problems from their Republican predecessors, didn't they? You know, I think the Republican Party is kind of banking on a case of collective amnesia, so we don't remember. But I remember. And I remember when my husband got into office and all of a sudden he got the real information about what the deficit was and how the Republicans had quadrupled the debt and all the other problems we faced in the economy. He said, you know, it's so much worse than they told us. And then he got to work. And it wasn't easy. It never is. But at the end of 8 years, we not only had 23 million new jobs, people's incomes went up from the bottom to the middle, not just at the top. And there was a sense that we were going to be in charge of our destiny going forward. We were going to be able to invest in more opportunities for more Americans. I joined the Senate in 2001, and I saw from the get-go that what the new president wanted to do, along with his Republican allies, was not just turn the clock back on an economy that was working better for hardworking Americans, but literally to turn the clock back on what built the middle class, going back as far as they could. And I saw it. I spoke out against it. I gave speeches on the Senate floor and every other place I could get, basically making the argument, don't let them go back to trickle-down economics. Don't let them impose their failed economic policies on us again. Don't let them turn their backs on what works in America. Well, you know what happened. 2008, after the election, President-elect Obama called me, asked me to come to Chicago to meet with him. I didn't know why. Turns out he wanted me to be Secretary of State, but before we had that conversation, he says to me, it's so much worse than they told us. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. We could have had a Great Depression instead of a Great Recession. It was not easy digging ourselves out of that hole. The American people did most of the digging. People worked hard, took second jobs, did second shifts, did everything we could to try to get back up on our feet. And I do think President Obama deserves more credit than he gets for getting us out of that deep ditch. So, you know, we're standing, but we're not yet running the way America should. And why is that? Because the deck is stacked in favor of those at the top. In fact, the deck is rigged in favor of those at the top. We cannot get back to where we need to be, where incomes rise again, where people feel that they've got a future, not just for themselves, but for their kids, unless we go on against what is happening in Washington day in and day out. It is not going to be easy to do. But I believe I've got the vision, the policies, the skill, the tenacity, and the determination to get us back on the right track. And I'll tell you, at the center of what I intend to do as your president is to raise incomes. That is the defining economic challenge we face. Obviously, we have to raise the minimum wage. There's no doubt about that. And it's got to go up so that people have a decent life and they work full-time and they're not still in poverty. But that's not enough. We've got to get equal pay for equal work. Now, if you really look at the economy and you realize that we're stalled for a lot of people, one of the reasons is because women who are working hard are not getting paid equally. This is not a woman's issue. This is a family issue. This is an economic issue. And we're going to fight until we finally break through the barriers to equal pay for equal work. And then we need to make it possible for women and men and young families to be able to work by having affordable quality child care, by having earned paid sick days, paid family leave, the kind of support that they need to be able to go to work and stay at work. There is no doubt that we can create more jobs, but we've got to make it easier for people who are caring for babies or caring for aging relatives to be able to take those jobs. I was very proud that President Obama said today he is going to require federal contractors to provide 7 days of earned paid sick leave. And he's going to fight for paid family leave, something that I've been fighting for 30 years, and we're going to get it done. It's not right to treat working people as though they don't have other responsibilities. And on the very first day in office, I'm going to get to work to reverse the incredible pressures on the working people of America, particularly those in unions or trying to form unions, that has been the Republican mantra, supported by their allies in the private sector. We're going to go back to enforcing labor laws. I'm going to make sure that some employers go to jail for wage theft and all the other abuses that they engage in. And we're going to make it harder and harder to stop what should be the right of every American to join a union and bargain collectively through that union. But I'll tell you, we've got a fight on our hands, don't we? Because we've got too many governors, Republican governors. You know what's happening in Wisconsin. You know what's happening in Illinois, for heaven's sakes. So we can't just wring our hands and argue about it. We've got to organize ourselves. And we have to make Republicans pay a price at the polls for treating Americans like second-class citizens. And I will fight to protect your pensions. You bargained for those pensions. You deserve to have what you bargained for. And I will defend Social Security against these really mean-spirited ideas about privatizing Social Security. So I'm running for president because I know we've got to fight together to get back what really made this country what we all love and cherish, what Tammy sacrificed for. You know, I'm the granddaughter of a factory worker. He worked in the mills in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the lace mills, every day. And he worked hard because he knew in his heart his hard work would pay off for his children. And it did. You know, my dad, he got to go and graduate from college. My mom didn't. You know, my mom had a terrible childhood. She was abandoned by her own parents, rejected by her grandparents. By the age of 14, she was working as a housemaid to support herself. And yet, this country provided opportunities to both of them. And I'm standing here in front of you because of their hard work, but also because America had their backs. We need to believe again that we're all in this together. We need to work to make sure that we give every child in America the same opportunity. Now, I'll tell you, I'm a new grandmother, and it's the best thing that you could imagine. Our granddaughter's going to turn 1 at the end of this month. And, you know, Bill and I are just ridiculous about it. Literally, I mean, you know, she learned how to clap. We gave her a standing ovation. But for those of you who are part of this club, this grandparents club, something happens to you. And here's how I would describe it. You get young again. Yeah, you smile all the time. Doesn't matter what else is going on in the world. You just can't help it. But you also live very much in the present because you're watching this miracle of life unfold. But you also think, okay, we're going to do everything we can to give her the opportunities that we want her to have, and we hope she'll have the character and the work ethic to take advantage of them. But what about the country she's going to grow up in? What about the world that's waiting out there for her? We have an obligation not just to our own children and grandchildren, but to every child in America. You see, I don't believe that you should have to be the grandchild of a former president to be able to make the most out of your talent and your hard work. I think you should be able to be the granddaughter of a factory worker or the grandson of a trucker. You should be able to believe that you will go as far as Tammy has and Dave has and Dick and Sherry and I. But it's not going to happen just because we want it to happen. It can only happen by electing leaders who will fight for you every single day and making sure that we get results that will turn this country around. If you will help me, I will make it my mission to do just that. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on that Hillary Clinton event in Iowa. As I mentioned going into it, Hillary Clinton making a lot of appearances in Iowa. In fact, I'm getting a feed right now, a live feed of Hillary Clinton in Iowa. I'm not going to show you this whole thing, but I just want to prove that Hillary Clinton is pretty much everywhere right now. That's the same outfit she was wearing earlier, but obviously you see a different backdrop.
Because the theory is they're going to get all these tips. That is a recipe for exploitation, particularly of women.
and we're going to end that form of wage theft.
As you can see,
We are also going to really
Hillary
crack
Clinton
down
making
on
another
employers
appearance in
who exploit
Iowa.
workers.
Just wanted to show you this.
They
Dave Munsey
steal
will be
their
joining me
wages.
in just a second.
They don't do the right things when it comes to safety in the workplace. They misclassify workers so they don't have to.
You'll probably see that a little bit later on. We are recording that. Perhaps Kinsey will be showing that to you in the evening edition of News Now. Just wanted to give you a preview. More Hillary Clinton is out there. Hillary Clinton is making those appearances. She is working on Labor Day. She is not taking a break. But she is talking about labor and labor unions strategically on Labor Day, as you heard from the last speech we just listened to. Dave Munsey will be joining me in approximately 30 seconds, probably 40 seconds. I see him over there. You can actually watch him as he walks on over. Do you see that guy in the red tie? Yep, he is joining us momentarily. We will be joined by the one and only Dave Munsey.
Hey, here's some water.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind. And now I have Dave Munsey here.
I'm sorry to be late. I thought Hillary would go long.
No, she
Oh,
didn't.
she didn't.
I told you
Okay.
the exact time that it would end.
Okay.
I knew.
Okay.
I knew in my heart.
There we go.
So it's
Actually, I was
raining.
doing weather for some. Well, it's sprinkling.
Well,
it is raining
rain
around
is
Lotto Start.
Sprinkling is still rain, though.
It's sprinkling in the valley. That's all I've seen so far. We have had some very good rain around the state, however.
This is our tower cam.
You can see a little bit of little cloudiness out there. I don't see any rain coming out of any of those particular clouds. But
Our tower cam located on South Mountain.
go up and take a look at it. It's a real tourist attraction, folks.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool. Dave Munsey, so what do you have in store for us?
Well, I have a radar up here
Oh, we can
that
see
we
where
can
the rain
take
is.
a look at and see that there's some more rain coming up from the south for Arizona. There we go, right there. We can zoom in on that. So we don't have a great deal of rain left right here in the southern deserts. Of course, as you know, things can pop up very, very rapidly.
But we see that there's some
Yes,
dark
they do.
green in the
You see how it kind of falls out?
southwest corner.
Yeah, you see how it falls out though? As it gets closer,
I
it
see.
turns to a much lighter
Oh, right,
green.
because this is the radar from like noon onwards.
Mhm,
I see how
mhm.
this works.
And then as it goes
So at
over
3
the desert,
o'clock, yeah.
a lot of that dryness in the desert sucks the moisture out of it, and by the time it gets to Phoenix, there's not much
That's why it was only sprinkling when I went
That's
to
right.
go get lunch.
Yes, it sprinkled all the way in. It rained a little. I guess you could call some of it rain. I had to turn my sprinklers on or my windshield wipers on a couple of times. But I had a little bit of rain, mostly sprinkles coming in from Tempe. And then it stopped around I-17 and the 7th Street is where it stopped.
I heard there was
So,
rain up in near Flagstaff, though. Is there more up there?
Let's take a look and see. We go into Phoenix, take a look off to the east, take a long look at the east.
Yeah, it's more up there. Look at that. Look at that up there.
Yeah, see that stuff, Show Low, St. John's, Pine Top, Lakeside.
That's where all the rain
And there's
is.
Flagstaff up
Oh,
there.
and Prescott. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Prescott, Camp Verde,
And I know,
Payson, all of them getting hit pretty hard.
Our very own Steve Krafft is on his way back from this area right here. So he went up to Prescott today to do an interview. He's on his way back, so he's going to be stuck in this rain.
He's a good rain reporter. He did a good job for us the other day reporting the rain. He was, I think the wind was blowing about 40, 50 miles an hour. He almost got knocked over. So he did a good job reporting on the last storm.
I'm just hoping he can make it back in time because he has a really important story for a 5 o'clock newscast.
What was the
And with
interview
rain-
that he did?
Well, he went up to Prescott. Do you remember
Okay.
Kayla Mueller, the local
Yes.
girl who
Oh,
was
yes,
killed
of course.
as a
Of course.
captive of ISIS?
Mhm.
Well, she was from Prescott, and it turns out that they want to name a park in Prescott after Kayla Mueller, and so Steve Krafft's story is about that park, and he actually got an interview with Kayla Mueller's dad, which
Oh,
is huge
good.
because the Kayla's parents hadn't done any local interviews. Really, they'd made some national appearances, but we hadn't been able to talk to them locally, and so this is pretty exciting.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I remember when she was, right after she was killed, and they were talking about her a lot in
Right.
the media. I was embarrassed a lot. I thought that I didn't do enough, and I think a lot of people felt like that when you see somebody like her that is so energetic,
And she's a local girl.
yeah, well, we feel the tie to her because she grew up around us and everything, and she, is part of our community. And then you listen to what she's done in her young life.
Right.
I'm sitting here at almost 68 years old, going, "Oh, I got a lot of catching up to do." You do. You hear.
I mean, you're pretty accomplished, Dave Munsey.
Well,
though.
you
40
can be.
years at Channel 10.
That's right. You can be very accomplished, but she went out and helped people. She put herself in a precarious situation to help others. So yeah, it's quite a story, and I think she deserves a park.
Right.
I don't see why not. Who would argue against that? I'm sure someone will.
I mean, people argue over everything. But it is a tragedy that she lost her life over there. But I'm just so surprised at how well our lawmakers were able to keep it a secret for so long. So for a long time, I mean, they knew she was a captive.
Mm-hmm.
None of us knew, though, out in the public or in the media. It wasn't until she lost her life, unfortunately, that we really learned of the details.
And I think that's one of the things they're debating. And that is if that had been known, maybe more pressure on them.
But then they also say that if it was known that
That's
her
true.
life was worth more, they would have demanded more
That's
ransom.
true.
There's
But
so
you know,
many different approaches to it. But now, didn't Obama come out and say, isn't there this new policy now where they're going to allow the families of those held hostage to pay ransom if they want to?
I think
Before
it's
they
something
didn't.
along that line.
Yeah, before they didn't, the government was never going to, but they also didn't let people do it. And
Right.
now they're not going to stop families from providing their own money if that's what they feel will get their loved one back safely.
That could turn out to get ugly. That could turn to get ugly when you have a policy that says we won't even deal with that. That
Right.
turns a lot of people away.
Yeah.
That turns a lot of people away.
angry.
Yeah, but if you start paying ransoms, then I think more people will be taken. Just my personal opinion on that, and believe me, if I had a family member who was taken, I'd be paying the ransom.
However you get it.
Yeah, it's your family member. You have the right to do what you want to do to get them back. I think the best story ever is a story by, I can't think of the author's name. It's called On Wings of Eagles. And what it is, it's the story of Ross Perot and his employees.
Former presidential candidate,
His
1992.
Right. His employees were stuck in Iran. And he went in and got them. He formed a team. He hired at his company in Texas, trying to think of the name of it. It had the calculators and watches and things like that.
Instruments?
Yes, I think it was, yes.
Oh, well, that's a calculator I had in Algebra 2 and Calculus.
He hired a lot of Vietnam veterans. And so he just went through his roster of employees. He picked out several men that were Vietnam veterans, and he hired a former commander of a Vietnam force, and they put together a team, a SWAT team, a strike team, and they went into Iran, and they got their people out. I think they had 17, 18 people in there. They got them all out. And it's a very exciting book. It's kind of old. It's a little old. It's called On Wings of Eagles by Ken Follett. And it's one of the only, or not only, or one of the very few non-fiction books that Ken Follett has written, because he has a lot of mysteries, a lot of really exciting stuff out there, with characters in them. But this is a true story. On the Wings of Eagles. I've told people about it for years. Right. Very exciting book, and it is a book about going in and getting your own back without government approval. He went in on his own and put his strike team together. And just get the book and read it. It's very exciting.
That's a good
very
plug,
exciting.
Dave Munsey.
Yeah. Well, the book's been out for many years now, so I don't even know if it's still in print, but you never know.
Maybe you can get it, an ebook. Apple Snapple agrees with you, Dave, but Apple Snapple would not pay ransom to terrorists. Tess saying they should make a point not to advertise it if they do pay those ransoms. I think more people will be taken to, but I do think everything I would do everything I could to get a loved one back.
Yep.
And Tess also said I voted for Ross like an idiot.
Well, at the time you had a feeling. Yeah, you had a feeling, and you had this was your alternative. Yeah, I vote for myself, I do. I write my own name in elections where I just cannot vote for one of the candidates, and that's happened to me quite a few times.
Wow.
But my name's been written in a couple of times because I just can't think, and I don't want to throw my vote away because I think somehow if I win, I could probably do a pretty good job.
Dave Munsey for president.
There you go.
He already has a lot of ties. You have enough ties to make enough public appearances.
Somebody made a joke one time about Dave Munsey for mayor. And
Munsey for mayor sounds pretty good.
And a couple of days later, we got several from different people bumper stickers that said Dave Munsey for mayor.
That's amazing.
People went out and made up bumper stickers.
So fun. Ale has a question, by the way, asking Dave, will we hit 110-degree weather again?
Now, should I answer like a politician?
What would weatherman Dave say, and what would politician Dave say?
Weatherman would say, we try never to do that. Dave would say, we're going to hit 107 later this week. That is so close to 110 that, yeah, it's possible. It's possible that we could still hit 110. I wouldn't guarantee that, but at this time of year, your ups and downs.
I think I like politician Dave better right now.
There you go.
Tell me what I want to hear, politician Dave.
That's the problem. But that could happen. Like I say, later this week, we're popping up to 1718. So it's a possibility. That's a politician weatherman answer.
Pretty good.
What else do we have?
Those are all the questions so far. Apple Snapple chiming in saying Ryan wasn't able to vote yet in 1992.
Oh, okay.
Logically.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
So there's that. I was not able to either. So there's that. Do you want to watch any of the stories that
Let's see
here?
what we have today.
We have you want something that's happy, right?
Yep.
Well, then we will go with, you don't want the Craigslist house rent scam? Or the Hawaiian man that dies after being swept off rocks? How about,
no, that wouldn't be.
Or the fact that SAT scores have been dropping.
How about waitress gets $3,000 tip?
I knew you would want that one. I knew it. Even before I went to the folder, I was like, he's going to want to hear about the waitress in Utah. Just watch. And he did.
There you go.
And he did.
And we're going to see it.
I know Dave Munsey. I know him well. He likes chocolate and happy stories.
There you go. And I'm a good tipper, so let's see if I've been outdone.
You have. Have you ever
I think I have.
Have you ever dropped 3,000?
I don't think so.
All right, let's watch.
Pretty good. Good.
A typical night at work here for Bree Snow.
This is my second job, yeah.
Usually comes at the end of a long day.
Sometimes it can be really good. Sometimes it can be really bad, so.
But Thursday night, she likely had one of her best.
I was checked out for the night. Like, that's how late they came in.
When she started serving a table of customers who in return gave her more than she could have imagined.
It was more than a pick-me-up.
After rounds of drinks and food, waiting for her at the table was this receipt, a $500 bill with a $3,000 tip.
They're like, we want to give this to you, like, we want to make your day, and it did, and I started tearing up.
I looked at the receipt and was like, did she get 300? Nope, that's 3,000.
The group snapped this photo and pointed Snow to an Instagram page for the user Tips for Jesus, where similar moments have been captured at restaurants all around the country.
After working so hard to get just a great payoff from it, just really touched me, and I really am grateful.
For Snow, the gesture was worth as much as the money.
I've always wanted to be one of those people that give. I always wish that I have the capacity to do that.
A reminder, after a long day of work, of what is truly worth valuing.
And to so generously see that from someone else, a random act of kindness, like there's nothing that hits more home. There's not a word for it. Thank you is not enough.
So that was an uplifting story. Tips
that's
for
a good
Jesus.
one.
I remember working in
That's a
LA
good
when
one.
they had struck LA and left some tips there. But that's a big story. It's been going on for like a year,
Yeah,
over a year
yeah.
now.
I say he passed away, a good friend, and we used to, his wife and my wife and I used to share Christmas together every season. We always had dinner together on Christmas Eve. And a lot of times we went to a restaurant, a lot of times we would cook at our home, but when we went to a restaurant, he and I tried to out-tip each other. And without knowing what each was giving, you had to reach out there a little bit.
Wow.
And it was fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, by the way, I just want to go back to your previous comment your book recommendation?
Yes.
I'm glad you brought it up today because today is National Read a Book Day. Is it any more
Good.
fitting?
Good.
So yeah, I just wanted to let you know.
On Wings of Eagles. That's the book you should get. Actually, there's another book I think is probably the best book, one of the most interesting books. I picked up more information reading this book than any book I've ever read. I read all the time. This is the most interesting book I've ever read. It's called Last Call.
Does it have to do with alcohol?
Yes, I can't think of the author's name right now, but the name of the book is Last Call, and it's a story of Prohibition.
Oh.
And if you want to know how America was built and where America's millionaires and billionaires came from, read this book because, boy, they're all there. They're all there.
That's how they made money?
Well,
secret alcohol.
It's just very, very interesting. It's very interesting of who these people are and who these people became and who these people are today. Because a lot of some of the biggest movers of booze are very legitimate businesses today that if you tell people these stories, they would go, no, that person never did that. But booze did a lot to build this country, I'll tell you, or the lack of it. The lack of it did a lot to build this country because a lot of fortunes were made during that period of time. For a lot of different reasons. But Last Call, great book.
A.L. saying Tasting Beer, An Insider's Guide to the World's Greatest Drink. That's the book I'm reading right now. The author is Randy Mosher.
Well, then you should check this one out next.
Last Call.
Last Call. It's just amazing, all of the little things that came from Prohibition. One of the things, I'll just give you one little incident. Plea bargaining. Plea bargaining came from Prohibition because judges and lawyers didn't want to put people in jail for drinking. And so they would give them an opportunity.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, give them an opportunity to bail out. And that's basically where the plea bargain came from. It came from the days of Prohibition, where you would have all of these upstanding citizens that went out and had a drink one night and got caught. And the judge didn't want to do anything, the lawyers didn't want to do anything, the prosecutors didn't want to do anything.
Imagine Prohibition in this day and age. It would be impossible. What if they imposed that?
Yeah, I think it would be impossible.
It would be so interesting, though, if they did it.
Social media would probably tell you where it was, and then you'd have to get there before the cops.
Well,
you'd have to get there before they did, and things
funny.
like that. So
Rachel's saying that NASCAR came out of Prohibition.
NASCAR came out of Prohibition in a little different way. NASCAR or Prohibition created these a lot of them Southern young men that drove fast cars, and they would fill up their tanks. They would fill the tanks with booze, and then they'd take these fast cars through the countryside to get it delivered to all the places that it had to be delivered. Yeah, and then they would, and it was a race. It was a race against the police. It was a race against the enforcement people, a race against the government. And they then would start racing each other when they weren't hauling booze. They had all these souped up cars, and they started racing each other. And you're right. I can't give you all the details of how and where and when, but it was from running booze and souping up these cars and racing first the cops and the government people, and then racing each other. And then NASCAR was basically born out of that. That's not the whole story, but that's the gist of it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I learned
I'll tell you,
today.
get this book. Get that book. It's loaded with stuff like that.
Wow. Tess saying, I never knew this. Crazy criminals. High beer taxes came out of Prohibition as well.
Yeah, and you're right. The mobsters grew very powerful. That's Tess during Prohibition. Gave them an opportunity, gave them a tool that they needed to make money. And when you're ruthless, boy, I'll tell you, there was a group out of Canada. I think they were called the Bonner Brothers. I read this book a few years ago, but they ran their booze through North Dakota. They would come down through North Dakota, and then they would run it up to New York from on all the back highways. And they were out of Canada, and later changed their name to Seagram's 7, and became a group of missionaries. Decided, because there was legal booze. You could have legal booze for religious services and for medical as well, just like our medical marijuana. But they also had it for religious services as well. And there was a group of Minnesota farmers that were all Christians and wanted to go out and grow that. They said, we're farmers. Why don't we go grow our own grapes, grow our own wine? And that's what they did. And that's where Christian Brothers wineries came from. That little move right there. Just I could just go on and on about this.
Wow, you know
stuff
so
in this
much.
book. No, I know it because I read this book.
So read the book. Yeah, Rachel said
you have
history
to read.
lessons
Remember
with
when
Mr.
your mom
Munsey.
told you read and that teacher in school said read? Well, I listened. I did.
Well, and again,
I
it's
did a lot.
National Read a Book Day. So if there's any day to get a new book to read, today's the day.
Yeah, that's right. That's the deal. All right.
AL saying Dave Munsey is a better teacher than my lazy high school history teacher.
Well, he didn't have the book.
That's awesome.
I agree with you. I thought my high school was pretty boring too. They're not as boring anymore.
I have one story that I picked out for you as well.
Okay.
This is a story that Ty did. It aired yesterday evening about dogs swallowing objects.
Okay.
I thought it would be of interest to you.
Yes.
Because you have a
I
dog.
follow objects. Because I have a dog. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and I do follow objects.
No,
so.
swallow.
Yeah.
You
Swallow. I thought you said follow.
No, swallow.
Okay, yes, they do.
You need to
Yes.
watch out for this.
Yeah, ours was Advil.
Really? It took
Oh,
medicine?
yeah. Oh, we went to the emergency room and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we weren't sure. We just had an empty bottle all chewed up.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to pump the stomach. It was a lot of money.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So maybe we should watch this.
Price
to
of the
prevent
dog went up considerably.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
let's watch.
We've seen all sorts of crazy things that dogs have ingested.
As a vet at Emergency Animal Clinic in Gilbert, Dr. Catherine Smith has seen it all. One of their most common emergency visits is when a dog eats something they shouldn't have.
That's probably one of our most common emergencies that we have.
Take a look at these x-rays. Can you tell what this is? Well, it's a pair of rubber ducks this dog decided to eat. And this one, a chew toy stuck in this pup's stomach. This one's pretty easy to make out, a spoon.
You can see that it's not only just sitting in the stomach here, but it's actually extending still into the esophagus here. They were offering mashed potatoes off of a spoon, and Tank accidentally ingested the spoon.
Luckily, this dog was brought into the emergency vet quickly, and they were able to get it out using a very special tool.
It's this end that goes down into the esophagus, and for a dog, this larger dog, this can do just great and be able to go down. And you can see the camera right there, looking right back at you.
Vets are able to use the scope to easily grab the object and pull it back out, mitigating the need for an expensive surgery. The doctors say timing is everything.
If the object has moved past the stomach into the intestines, our camera can't reach that, and it makes it a lot more difficult in order to remove, and so we have to do surgery at that point.
Ty Brennan, Fox 10 News.
Very interesting, yes, very interesting. Because anybody that has a dog has probably been through that or something similar to it. Ours, as I mentioned, was Advil.
Oh man,
And-
that's more dangerous than just a box.
The amount, I forget what the amount is that can kill a dog, but it's not too many of them. It's like 4 or 5.
Oh my gosh.
And there was a whole bottle missing. We weren't sure how many were in the bottle.
Right.
It was one of those things where we went, I don't know, it could have been 2 in there. And it was all chewed up. Everything was gone. And we found a couple of chewed Advil too, so we knew that there were a couple there.
Dangerous.
And so we had to do everything, which was pump her stomach and X-rays and the whole 9 yards. And it was the price of a used car. I mean,
Expensive.
it can be that way.
Wow.
It can be that way. What is that, the tower cam again? I thought I saw some
we can
dark.
go look at it. This is the tower cam.
I see some dark clouds there, but they're not really threatening. That's just a little shade that we're seeing there. But we do have some rain around. We do know that. We've taken a look at in fact, let me get another little shot there, back up just a little bit. And you can see that it's kind of slowing down around Phoenix. The rain's slowing down a little bit.
But Prescott.
Yeah, we have had some light rain, some sprinkles, but up north, still very, very heavy. Yeah.
Wickenburg's getting hit. Yarnell, Prescott, Sedona, Winslow. correct. Basically, if you are not in the greater Phoenix area, but rather north, you are probably experiencing some form of rain.
Hey, Steve,
oh,
he made
Steve,
it
how
back.
was the rain? Wet. What? Just coming back from Prescott.
Yeah, a lot of rain.
Yeah,
you
we're
should
showing
have been
them right
you
now.
should have been a weatherman. How did you know it was wet? So there you go. Now you're going to get your story.
Hopefully, we
Yep.
got to get the video in the system.
Oh, I think we have
Fingers
time.
crossed that we
I
can get
think
that
we have
in.
time. I think we have
We
time.
can listen to what Kayla Mueller's
Yeah.
dad told Steve Krafft today.
And also Labor Day today, so, congratulations to the American worker. You haven't been treated too well over the last few years, so a bigger congratulations for making it through all that.
And Tessa,
It's not over yet.
Munsey, you're a good guy for taking care of your furry friend.
Yeah, the thing is I think we all do. Unfortunately, probably take care of our furry friends more than we do our human ones. But people that have dogs, dog people, animal people, they do tend to take good care of their animals. We had a dog who's long since passed that had cancer, and we took it to a dog cancer treatment center. And try explaining that to your friends that don't have dogs, that you're going to the expense of treating your dog. I mean, we did radiation, did the whole 9 yards, and we cured the cancer. Got about 3 years more out of the dog, which is what we were looking for. But animal people will do many different things. I don't think I'm much different from any of them. I think we're all pretty much the same. But thank you for the compliment.
And Al saying, Dave, what do you tell people that do not watch their children around water like your slogan goes?
I find out about every drowning pretty close to right after they happen. And I've gotten to the point of shaking my head. I used to get real upset and go, there's a way to fix this, and now I just shake my head because there's, along with all the bells and whistles that you can have to alert you to the fact that there's a problem in your pool, there's more neglect. There's a lot of neglect. There are a lot of people that don't see the pool as a danger. They think of their children as being water wise and water safe. I've had those very words said to me by mothers that have lost their children. I thought he was water safe. And they never think it's going to happen to them. So, yeah, you do think, what more can we do? But also, sometimes you want to say to people, you should have been watching. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to say to a mother or a father. But you know why there's a lot of divorce out of drownings when a child is lost? Because somebody was home watching the kid.
Right, and speaking of, we had that crazy story from Friday, the child who died in Peoria in the bathtub, the 1-year-old.
Walked away. The mom walked away.
I know, I have that story. I'm going to play it for the viewers now. It's a good transition.
Yeah, she walked away. I don't know the situation. We'll let the police figure that out.
There were a couple of her kids in the bathtub.
She had two of them in the bathtub.
And the 1-year-old and the 1-year-old.
And maybe she thought that the 3-year-old could watch the 1-year-old. I don't know what the thinking was there. But you gather them all up. I don't care how wet they are. I don't care if they're dripping. I don't care if they're screaming. You gather them all up and you take them with you. Mm-hmm. If something's that important in another room, then it's important enough for you to take the kids along. Mm-hmm. The only thing that you would walk away from your kids in a bathtub from is an explosion, a fire, something that would distract you to the point of making you do make a dumb decision.
Right.
But if you think there's something so important in another room when your kids are in the bathtub, then pick them up and take them with you. 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, you could carry those. You can carry those people, those little ones. So yeah, I used to be kind of a bleeding heart for the parents, and I am a bleeding heart for parents of true accidents. But I get a little fed up with neglect. Mm-hmm. Walking away, it gets to be more than what were you thinking. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I could go on and on, but I
Right.
won't. Yeah.
This is a story that aired Friday night on our
Yeah.
newscast for our viewers who did not catch the story last week. I'm going to go ahead and play this
Okay.
for you. It starts off with a shot of the mother whose 1-year-old died.
Brenda Ramirez was booked into the Maricopa County Jail, her family torn apart, her 1-year-old daughter dead, her 3-year-old daughter in the custody of Department of Child Services, the kid's father also in police custody but on an unrelated charge. It all stems from what happened inside their Peoria apartment. Ramirez called police around 12:30 Friday morning, saying her 1-year-old was not breathing. The mom told police she left the 2 kids alone in a bathtub filled with water.
And to put it in her words, she had just stepped away for a little bit and came back, and the 1-year-old was not breathing.
Police found the baby wet on the floor of the apartment. They performed CPR, but sadly, the baby girl was pronounced dead at the hospital. Her mother now facing 2 counts of felony child abuse.
And that's mainly focusing on the fact that her reckless behavior of having both the children in the tub, and she stepped away.
There's obviously something more to it than that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was like drugs.
Neighbors could only speculate as to why the mom was bathing the kids at such an odd hour and why she left them alone. Police say they've been called to Ramirez's apartment several times before. Investigators served a search warrant at the home and are trying to figure out if the mother's story matches up with the evidence.
It's a good wake-up call for parents that literally the slightest second your kid could like drown or your kid could fall down the stairs. Like, you never know.
So that was the story that aired Friday, and then yesterday, I guess, the dad wanted to speak out. So the dad of the child who drowned wanted to speak out, and I guess he did, and he talked to Danielle, new reporter Danielle Mueller. So we have that story that aired last night, so I want to play this one for you now. We can hear what the father had to say about this tragic drowning.
We all loved each other. We love each other. You know, we would never harm each other.
Miguel Contreras still in shock after losing his 1-year-old daughter Melanie on Friday. His fiancée and the mother of the child, 21-year-old Brenda Ramirez, brought to jail that same day after the little girl drowned in the bathtub at their Peoria apartment. Police say Ramirez called 911 and said her daughter was not breathing at about 12:30 in the morning. When police arrived, the baby was wet and unresponsive. The couple's 3-year-old daughter also in the home at the time but wasn't hurt. Contreras says not only did he lose his baby girl, but he's also dealing with the pain of what people have been saying about Ramirez.
The things that are being said, obviously people are free to comment, but I just want them to know that she is the best person in the world.
Contreras says Ramirez, who's his high school sweetheart, was the best mother. He says she was working on a political science degree to provide the best life she possibly could for her family.
We're all humans. We all have busy minds, you know, and we all go through things that we have no control over sometimes.
Contreras, who wasn't home at the time of the incident, can't say much about the case, but he does say he knows for certain Ramirez would never hurt their daughters.
She was the most loving little girl in the world. Her eyes will forever be in my memory.
That's really sad.
Yes, it is. There's a couple of stories there. I think one of them is if you remember back to the original story, the police officer taking the woman out of the van, and there are other handcuffed people there that are in custody, and you can see that he's kind of protecting her, kind of holding her back, explaining her to where things are, and kind of fathering her. I saw that in that police. So even he feels the tragedy of what's going on here. This woman is, I'm sure she is a good person. She may have made a horrible mistake. I don't want to blame her until all of the evidence is in on what happened there. But in the meantime, she's in handcuffs and she's in custody. Right. And for as bad as that police officer feels, and as bad as we feel, and as bad as her husband feels, this has to be straightened out before she can be out of custody. It's just, that's the way things are. Mm-hmm. And I look at people like her when, as just a person on the street, as just a guy, not Dave Munsey, the weatherman, or a guy that's been around newsrooms my whole life, but I look at her as a person that doesn't belong in jail.
Right.
And I always wonder what they're thinking when they meet that reality, when they take them off of that bus and start walking them into the jail.
Right.
And the events of the day have caught up with them.
Right.
And I always wonder what they're thinking, what's going through their mind of how I could have handled this differently.
Right.
And we can't say yet she may be released. There's the evidence isn't all in yet, but we have lost a child here.
Right, right. I want to read a few more comments from the chat room. Tess saying there does seem like there's more than just an accident. We don't know all the facts. It just seems the cops know more than we do to arrest her. Rachel wants to know 12:30 in the morning. Why give a bath that late? Ale saying, yeah, text is more important than their kids for some parents. Apple Snapple saying that's such an odd hour, and if only the baby was sick, would you bathe the child then? Bina saying, poor child, so sad, never leave children in a bathtub unsupervised. Idiotic. So, obviously people very upset, but that's what the father of the child was saying, that there's already backlash against him and the mother of the child, and yet they don't know the whole story, and he is convinced it was not intentional. It was
there's always going to be backlash. I'm sure Mother Teresa had backlash.
There's always someone that's going to hate you.
There's always going to be backlash on anything. We should all wait until the evidence is in. It's hard for us to do as human beings to do that. We hear what are told to us as the facts, and we make decisions as to whether somebody's good, bad, guilty, not guilty. Those are just things that we do. And I don't think you need to call people up when you're mad at them or when you're having that kind of a problem. And take that anger and funnel it into a child help organization or something like that. I mean, if you're mad enough to call somebody and give them a death threat or say something nasty to them,
right.
Call an organization and say, I'm so mad right now, I want to volunteer and help out. How can I go door to door and tell people to watch their kids around water or whatever it might be? Use that anger to do some good.
I love the passion, Dave Munsey. I love the passion.
So I tell my wife when she gets mad at me, I go, hey, use that anger to do some good.
So hilarious.
Doesn't work.
All right.
Okay, where are we here? We have another...
We have more. Do you want to watch more? Let's see.
Let me find me one more story before I go.
Do you want to hear about the painted ladies in Times Square?
Sure.
The SAT score drop, the man who died after being swept off rocks, the Craigslist house scam, or the doctors that are brothers that fled the Middle East.
Okay, let's look at the doctors that are brothers that fled the Middle East. That should be a good ending, right?
This one is Arizona. This one's from right here. Anita
oh,
did
even
this story.
better.
Anita
even
did
better.
This story.
Oh, okay.
So let's watch. I think I have the story right. I think my summary is accurate.
Any given day, on any given shift, patients at Banner University Medical Center, Phoenix, could cross paths with Dr. Abadali.
His breathing is much better today.
That is Dr. Mustafa Hussein, or Ali Abadali.
They are currently third years. I'm a first year, of course.
Dr. Ali is the youngest. He is a first-year internal medicine resident.
Hi, I'm Dr. Abadali. Hello. How are you feeling today?
His older brothers are third-year residents, also in internal medicine.
Deep breath. I was the first generation to start medical school, and my brothers also followed that pathway.
The brothers have called Arizona home for about a decade now, even attending medical school together. It's their family history that serves just as interesting. The family escaped the persecution of Saddam Hussein in the Middle East after several family members were killed. They fled to different Middle Eastern countries before arriving in the United States.
We grew up together, and we were raised together. So we knew our differences and we knew our boundaries. So we knew where we clicked, and I think we supplement each other.
They say they support each other in every way, complement one another's skills, and always know that they are at home together.
When we do see each other, it's definitely a good feeling, just feeling like I'm at home.
Anita Roman, Fox 10 News.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
Rachel's saying, "Oh, I think I have a tummy ache. Which hospital is this?" Tess saying, "This is the cute doctor story."
Yes, they were good looking.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
There you go. And resourceful, and obviously very intelligent, and
with an interesting life story.
well,
Saddam
exactly.
Hussein.
You know, the thing to flee, to leave your homeland. I mean, think of that. What a decision that must be. And I know there's strife and trouble and stuff like that, but you know, that's a tough decision. That's got to be a tough decision. You don't have any idea where you're going, or you know what's going on there. I would imagine in this day and age, with social media, you know more than you knew before. But still, that's quite a leap for anybody to take.
So I'm glad I left you with a really happy, positive
That's
story.
real good. You got me on a couple of good stories today.
We did, but we're going to go back to not so happy stories.
Oh, then I got to get out of here. Thanks for the cupcake. She brought me a cupcake. Isn't that nice?
I am very nice. Very kind.
good.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and play this clip right here. We don't have too much of it, but it's Carly Fiorina speaking today. Thought I would mix things up. We showed you Hillary, so now we're going to show you the other female presidential candidate. How about that? Carly Fiorina, what did she have to say?
Technology, it's kind of important in the 21st century. It's a really powerful tool, but it's also a weapon that is being used against us. And no, Mrs. Clinton, you do not clean a server with a towel. And you actually can have a couple accounts on your email server, and let us tell the truth. We cannot have a president of the United States who has lied about a purposeful terrorist attack, who lies about her emails, and who lies about the server in her basement either. And finally, we need a president who understands what leadership is. That leadership is about challenging the status quo, because the status quo of Washington, the professional political class, needs challenging now. A leader who understands that sometimes a tough call is needed in a tough time, from which you're prepared to stand and be held to account. The highest calling of leadership, however, is not about title. It's not about how big your office is. It's not even about how big your airplane or your helicopter are. The highest calling of leadership is to unlock potential in others. The potential of this nation must be unleashed and unlocked once again. And so let me leave you with this thought. I think every day as I campaign throughout New Hampshire and elsewhere in America about what this nation must be, what we can be, what we will be under President Fiorina. And I think of the two most powerful symbols of our nation's democracy, because they tell us all we need to know about who we are and who we must be. Lady Liberty and Lady Justice. Picture for a moment Lady Liberty in your mind. She stands tall and strong, as America must always be. She is clear-eyed and resolute. She doesn't shield her eyes from the realities of the world. She faces outward into the world. And she holds her torch high, because she knows she is a beacon of hope in a very troubled, very dangerous world. And Lady Justice. Lady Justice holds a sword by her side, because she's a fighter. She is a warrior for the values and the principles that have made this nation great. She holds a scale in the other hand. And with that scale, she says, all of us are equal in the eyes of God. And so all of us must be equal in the eyes of the law and government, powerful and powerless alike. And she wears a blindfold. And with that blindfold, I think she says to us that it must be true. It can be true that in this nation, in this century, it truly does not matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how you start, and it doesn't matter your circumstances. Here in this nation, it must be true that every American's life is filled with the possibilities that come from their God-given gifts. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. God bless you. Happy Labor Day.
Our next speaker is Chairman of the New Hampshire GOP, Jennifer Horn. from Washington.
All right, guys, that looks like it was a wrap on the Carly Fiorina event. It looks like we only got a portion of that, but wanted to show you that. I noticed that Ale in the chat room said sword versus robbers. That was a story that I wanted to bring to you earlier. I wanted to show you that this morning. I wanted to show you it last week. I never got around to it, but the fact that he brought it up in the chat room, I feel like now is the time to play this for you. It is a story that I believe Jessica Flores did. Don't quote me on that, but I'm going to play the story for you, and then I'm going to play the raw video, the full interview with the sword-wielding man. So let's start with this actual story that aired on TV. I believe it was Thursday, and then I will play the raw interview for you guys.
What kind of sword do you have, sir?
I have a semi-sword.
Okay.
Razor sharp.
Everything's still calm, right? You still don't...
Yeah, everything's calm.
Million uses for a samurai sword. A Valley man stops a burglary in process using a samurai sword. This happened over the weekend in the Santan Valley.
And tonight that homeowner is speaking with our Jessica Flores. And is he trained with the sword? Is he like an honorary samurai now? What's the deal?
No, he's definitely not trained. It was just a gift. And he tells me that he came home from work in the early morning hours to find the suspects inside his home. So he went for the only thing he could think of, the only weapon in his house. It was the Christmas gift from his wife hanging on his wall.
It's a sword fit for a samurai warrior, or in this Santan Valley homeowner's case, just the weapon to catch a suspected thief in the act.
I set him down on the couch and I said, do you have a weapon? He said, I have a pocket knife. I just pulled this off the wall, took it out of the sheath and laid it on my shoulder and said, okay, I'm calling 911.
Dan's weapon, a katana, a type of samurai sword, and his 911 call.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
In this Arizona desert town, unusual to say the least, even for a dispatcher who's heard it all.
What are you doing to prevent him from leaving?
I've got a sword in my hand.
A sword?
A sword. Will you send somebody over here right away and take this booger out of my house?
Pinal County Sheriff's deputies arrested the 15-year-old boy, later arresting another suspect, a 16-year-old boy, who was allegedly hiding upstairs and ran off before deputies arrived. Deputies say they recovered the teen's backpack with burglary tools inside and about $900 worth of stolen items.
No one's injured, right?
Nobody's injured.
Just a moment.
We're calm. I'm just upset.
Now that it's over, Dan hopes he can hang his katana in its proper place and leave the sword fighting to the samurai.
I would have felt very bad if they'd broken in somebody else's house and they had a gun and shot him. I mean, they're 16 and 15 years old. They made a mistake, and that's all.
And no one was hurt in the incident. Both teenagers were booked into Pinal County Jail for burglary and possession of burglary tools. Reporting live, I'm Jessica Flores, Fox 10 News.
All right, so that was the full story that Jessica put together, but what I have now here for you is the raw interview with that same samurai sword wielding individual, that homeowner. So let's go ahead and watch the raw interview now.
He had a pocket knife, and that's the only reason they got it down. If he'd have pulled that and tried anything, it would have been used, but
yeah,
there was no chance of it. The young man was scared. He was scared. I believe this was the first time they'd ever tried it. And like I said, I'm just glad it was my house and not somebody else's, because somebody else might have just shot him. So.
Jeez. Now, so the Pinal County, I just want to give you a heads up of what they sent us, because the news is going to be using it. They sent the 911 call, and they sent these pictures, just so that you know.
I was just watching it on the news.
Okay, so you heard it, the 911 call.
My son-in-law called me and said it's been all over the news today.
Yeah. There was another story similar to this. I don't know if it was a samurai sword or some type of sword like a year ago someone used, and it was just people were like, oh my god, that's awesome, I want a samurai sword. But so this is the picture they sent us, and then this is the stuff that they found.
Yeah. There was 2 boys, 2 backpacks.
Yeah. Do you think we can even just get that sound from you that you're happy that it was your house and not somebody with a firearm?
I'm tickled to death. It was my house instead of somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's on.
Okay.
I would have felt very bad if they'd broken in somebody else's house and they had a gun and shot him. I mean, they're 16 and 15 years old. They made a mistake, and that's all. I don't know how long it'll stay with them, but The parents are good, honorable people in the neighborhood, in the area, and I'm just glad it's over.
What happened? You walked in and you saw them here.
I got home from work. I get home at about 1. The door was open. The garage door was closed. They didn't hear me come in. While I was talking to one downstairs, the other one was hiding upstairs. And before the sheriff got here, not knowing he was there, he snuck out. So I only had the one to deal with. They caught the other one's dad caught him on the way home, took him to his house with his backpack, called me, and I forwarded the information to the sheriff, and they went up and got him.
So you saw him, and what went through your mind? I'm going to grab my sword, or...
I set him down on the couch, and I said, do you have a weapon? He said, I have a pocket knife. I just pulled this off the wall, took it out of the sheath, and laid it on my shoulder, and said, okay, I'm calling 911. And he kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Very, very polite young man.
Do you think he learned his lesson?
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope he never tries something like this again.
Could have been another house, someone with a gun.
Could have been, yeah. It could have been somebody who would have shot first. But that's enough. Okay, I don't want to talk about it.
No problem. And sir, what's your name?
I'm Dan.
Dan, and your last
That's
name?
enough.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that you have a good day, and I'm.
Can I see that one more time?
And just a Christmas gift.
It was a Christmas gift from my wife.
Was it just this last Christmas you just got it?
Last Christmas, yes.
It's a pretty formidable weapon. Can you bring it up just a little bit? Just
The cutting edge is on the inside, not the outside.
okay.
Feel the outside.
Yeah, it's thick, and that's the cutting edge there.
Cutting edge
Oh
is
my
on the
God!
inside.
Don't touch it too much.
Oh no.
You don't want to get
No,
cut.
I don't think I'm gonna get cut. Can I have it just right about there? Thank you. Just so I can see you too. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and sorry
Okay.
for
Okay.
bothering you. It's just the
I just
nature
wanted
of
to
our
see you
business.
slam that in there. I don't want to mess with you at all. I don't want to meet you at the front door with your sword.
People who ring the doorbell, I don't usually do this to.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Make no mistake, if he told me he had a pocket knife, and that's the only reason I got it down.
All right, guys, so that is the raw interview. I want to thank Ale in the chat room for bringing up that story. Glad you mentioned it. I totally forgot that I had that video. I meant to play it again this morning, but I never got around to it because we had all those live feeds coming in. And so I'm glad you mentioned in the chat room, Ale. You reminded me, and I was able to share that story with you guys. Very, very cool story indeed. So what we're doing now, we are waiting for that video to get into the system. Kayla Mueller's parents speaking out. They want this park named after her in Prescott. Kayla Mueller was the 26-year-old Prescott native who was unfortunately killed while a captive of ISIS. Really sad story. You know, this is, as many of you know, this is the reason I'm a John McCain fan. John McCain held a press conference, and when asked about Kayla Mueller, that's where he got very emotional on camera, even shedding a few tears. And to my surprise, it was refreshing to see a politician show that much emotion. So it all goes back to Kayla Mueller. Obviously, a really sad story, a great tragedy. And her parents are hoping that a park is named after her right up in Prescott. So fingers crossed. We are just waiting for that video to export. We should have that for you shortly. So stay tuned for that. Give me a couple minutes while we work to get that into the system. In the meantime, I am going to play for you another story. Let's see. Let's do this one. Craigslist house rent scam. This story is out of Colorado.
Years nobody's had a heart for this home, and we've been here since August 17th, and we love it.
Francie Nielsen needed a place of her own for her son and daughter and ailing mother, so she went on Craigslist looking for a rental. She found this home on Harlan Court, being rented by Lisa Sandoval, who police say is really Michelle Copeland.
We came in and looked at it. She showed us around the place, and we went and signed the lease. We gave her our money. She gave us keys and a rent receipt, and that was that until the next day.
Answering neighbors' calls, cops come by thinking Francie's family is doing some modern-day squatting.
I showed him the keys and the rent receipt, and we tried to get a hold of her. And at first we thought we were scammed, and we were crying and very upset that all of our money was gone.
It's a cash transaction. Yes, I would recommend that you're very careful and check out people's credentials before you rent from them.
Nielsen had trouble getting in touch with the phony landlady until police set up a bit of a sting, calling Copeland, telling her the family had the rest of the rent and deposit. When Copeland showed up, she was busted.
She's been charged with 2 counts of burglary and felony theft, as well as computer crime.
Wanting a place of their own so badly, the family is staying put, even though the home is up for auction in mid-October.
I'm happy with my room, and I don't want to move out, but we're going to have to sometime.
You know, we've worked with a mortgage company who clearly had no idea that she was in the home or that it was being rented, but they're working with her to the extent possible.
Again, that story out of Colorado. Going to play one more story for you that we were sent by Fox National. This one from Hawaii. Man dies after being swept off rocks. Sad.
Just after noon today, emergency responders found 2 hikers on the off-limits Hanauma Bay Trail hiked near the area known as Baboon's Nose or Rock Bridge. The crews were called when a 22-year-old man, part of that group, was swept off the shoreline by a large wave.
His friend tried to save him but was unable to, and they lost sight of him and some other bystanders called 911.
HFD says the 3 hikers serve in the Navy. Several people waited at the edge of the trail for word on their friend. Ocean Safety, the Coast Guard, and HPD joined in on the search.
6 to 8 foot surf today. It's pretty dangerous out there. We had to pull our personnel off the rocks. They were trying to do a coast search, and we had to get them up higher ground because the waves were too big.
All east-facing shores are under a high surf warning this weekend. Experts say waves are up to 18 feet. Unfortunately, a couple of hours later, HFD found the body of the missing man on the waters outside of Hanauma Bay.
And there was a close call at China Walls in Hawaii Kai this afternoon. 2 males found themselves in trouble trying to climb out of the water.
We were just out in the water swimming, and one of the kids was trying to climb out during a set and got washed up on the rocks and ended up getting swiped down along the wall and was trying to climb out as another wave comes and just gets blasted down the beach.
This group of swimmers say the swimmer in distress had another friend struggling. They tried helping and called 911. Both were able to get out of the water.
We thought we had just witnessed somebody drowning.
HFD is urging people to stay away from east-facing shores this weekend.
Well, never turn your back on the ocean. Always use common sense, and if there's no lifeguards around, don't go near the water. Always check with the lifeguards. They're the experts.
All right, so that story was out of Hawaii. Guess what? We have gotten the video in, the interview with Kayla Mueller's parents. As you know, they're trying to build a park. So I'm going to go ahead and play this raw interview for you guys now. You guys are seeing it exclusively here first. It's going to air partially in Steve Krafft's story tonight at 5, but you guys are going to hear it first here. So get excited. I'm excited to play it for you guys. Again, the story of Kayla Mueller. Kayla Mueller was a 26-year-old Prescott native who was captured by ISIS. Unfortunately, died while an ISIS captive. Really just a sad, sad story. But her parents trying to keep her legacy alive, building a park in her honor. All right, let's watch.
Well, it's so important to our family to have this playground and be dedicated to Kayla for the work that she was trying to do. It's very important. It's just another example of this wonderful community supporting us and backing us, and it's hard to express how important it is. We don't have a grave. I intend to spend a lot of time here with the kids and watching them play. And Kayla, even as a young adult, would go to playgrounds and play and just be with the kids. So it's going to be real important for us, I think.
And tell us how you think this would be a wonderful way to honor Kayla's memory.
Well, Kayla had such a love for children and women with children. You know, over there in Syria, she would talk about along the Turkey border how these women, their husbands were missing. So it was the women and the children. And so just her heart for women and children, they'll be able to come here. It's usually the moms that are with their kids. They can have their kids playing hockey and having their little ones over here in the park. So I guess that's it. Kayla's heart for women and children.
Let me ask you guys what you make of this whole business of all these refugees that are now the big headline in the world, all coming out of Syria, all descending on Europe.
Yeah.
It just seems like everything's getting to be such a mess.
It is a mess. Kayla, 2.5 years ago, said at Kiwanis, she wanted to tell Kiwanis about a young woman who came to her and said, "Where is the world?" And Kayla said, all I could do was cry with her. But she said she would ask when she came here, "Where is the world?"
Where is the world?
And that was in May of 2013.
They've ignored this situation. The whole world's ignored this situation over there and just let it go. And it's not just our government, it's the world.
Right.
And now we have hundreds of thousands of refugees trying to escape the horror in their country. They leave with a backpack, everything. And they try to find a peaceful place to live. And all the countries over there, Jordan and Turkey, they've been inundated for years with hundreds of thousands of refugees. Well, now they're starting to come to Europe, and probably there will be some coming here. It's a very sad situation. Where's the world?
So Kayla saw into the future.
She did, absolutely. When she spoke to Kiwanis in May of 2013, she was asked, what can be done? And she said, a no-fly zone over the refugee camps would be a big plus. And I heard recently in the news that that's being discussed. Well, she knew that in 2013. The refugee camps were being bombed and hit by bombs. So when is the world going to really come together and put an end to it? I have no idea. But this is the repercussions.
We're drawing awareness to it, and that's a start.
Yeah.
What is your message to folks about helping out on this project? You need to raise $80,000. Marcia, what would your message be to our viewers?
Well, it's hard to think about this park with everything going on over there, but this park with this playground would be a place for us to come. We don't have Kayla here. Kayla's over there in Syria somewhere. I don't know that we will ever have Kayla. So this is kind of our place to have Kayla. But I'd also like to say that, there's so much the world can do with food and clothing and medical supplies, all the needs of those people over there, all over there, in Syria, in Turkey, in Jordan, in Lebanon, heading off to Hungary and Austria and Germany and France. They need so much help. So those countries need our help to help those people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, it's so important to our family to have this playground and be.
As you know, the clip repeats as soon as it wraps up. So there you heard from Kayla Mueller's parents, Carl and Marcia, and now we're going to hear from Gary Ballard, who's the president-elect of the Kiwanis Club of Prescott. So what I'm going to do now is pull up that clip as well, and let's listen in on what he has to say.
Steve, what's going to be right behind me is going to be a signature playground honoring Kayla Mueller and her work as a humanitarian all over the world.
And what does a signature playground mean?
We're going to have a state-of-the-art surface that's safe for kids to fall off of the equipment. If they do, we hope they don't. It's also going to have some of the latest and greatest equipment manufactured by the playground manufacturers. We also intend to have some adult playground equipment for the grandmas and grandpas that bring their kids out.
So they can do pull-ups or?
They can do pull-ups.
Military-style push-ups or what?
They can do some pull-ups. There's some equipment that they can stand on and jog back and forth in place. and there's some things that they can push against. Just real low impact stuff for the old folks.
That's a pretty good idea. I could go for that. What help do you need from our viewers?
Steve, we need all the help we can get with donations. We'd like for people to send us cash, if possible. Checks would be great. We'd like to have them made out to the Kiwanis Club of Prescott Community Foundation, Post Office Box 1020, Prescott, Arizona 86302.
Checks, I think, would be better.
Check would be great, yes. If they need more information, they can call the Kiwanis office, 928-445-8700.
Is there going to be like a bank account set up so folks can go to a bank and donate money that way?
Have we set that up? We haven't set that up
Okay,
yet.
well,
That's
for
a
the
great
moment,
idea.
I'll tell people to send in.
We're just using our community foundation.
Okay. All right, but typically, though, lots of times folks will say, go to any Bank of America branch, and, it's the Kayla Mueller Playground Foundation, whatever it is you set up, and that way, that's a good way to generate.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
All right, so you got my card. Just let me know when that happens.
Okay, I'll do so, Steve. Thank you.
You were great. That's all I need to ask you. What's the plan for...
All right, so there you heard from Gary Ballard, who is the president-elect of the Kiwanis Club of Prescott, basically describing to Steve Krafft what is going to be in the space behind where he's standing, the eventual playground in honor of Kayla Mueller. Kayla Mueller was the Prescott native who unfortunately became a captive of ISIS and was later killed. Very, very sad story. Prior to hearing from Gary, we heard it from Kayla's parents, Carl and Marcia. So I want to thank Steve Krafft for getting that exclusive interview for us here on News Now, and you guys can hear the full story at 5 o'clock. You'll be able to see more video of the area of the playground and watch Steve's full report at 5. So make sure to tune in to the Fox 10 News at 5 for that. In the meantime, I'm now going to play President Obama's speech from earlier, because since we're talking about Kayla Mueller, we're talking about ISIS. Kayla Mueller is just one of a handful of American hostages who have died at the hands of ISIS. And so I feel like it's only fitting that we now hear from the president, who unfortunately was not able to rescue Kayla Mueller. President Obama speaking in Boston this morning. I know one of the things he talked about was the fact that he was creating this executive order making it mandatory for federal employees to get paid sick leave. So let's go ahead and listen to what the president has to say.
Hello, Boston! Well, everybody have a seat, everybody have a seat. Happy Labor Day, everybody. This is a day where we celebrate the grit, the resilience, the hard work of America's working families. Let me start by thanking your mayor, Mayor Walsh, who has stood up for working folks for a long time, since before he held this office. You've got two outstanding senators, Elizabeth Warren in the House, and Ed Markey. I brought along our Labor Secretary, Tom Perez, who's fighting for you every day. I know we must have some other members of Congress here. I love them. And labor leaders who've devoted their lives to working Americans. Some of them caught a ride with me on the way over here. Mary Kay Henry from SEIU. Randy Weingarten from AFT. Arturo Rodriguez from UFW. Billy Height from my hometown of Chicago from UA. We got Massachusetts AFL-CIO President Steve Tolman, and give it up for Rich Rogers and everybody from Greater Boston Labor Council for hosting this great breakfast. It's always good to be back in Boston, especially when the weather's like this. But pretty soon fall's going to be in the air, students coming back. Pats kick off on Thursday. Brady is free. And I've got a lot of good memories about this city. As we were driving up past the Commons, I was thinking about when I was a student here. Truth is, I was in the library most of the time, so I didn't get to have as much fun as I should have. A couple years ago, I stood with you as you showed the world that no tragedy can compete with Boston Strong. Then there was that And then there was that convention that you hosted back in 2004, before I had a motorcade. Traffic from Logan was a little tougher back then. But you were kind enough to give a warm Boston welcome to an unknown state senator with a funny name. And it's been 11 years since then. I have added a few gray hairs. I've earned every one of them. Oh, see there? I'm sorry, what was that? There you go. See, now I really feel good. But the words that I spoke that night in 2004 are the same ones that generations of Americans worked for and fought for. That's the belief that America is the most extraordinary of countries, a place only this country where somebody like me could rise to the heights of political office, a conviction that no matter who you are or what you look like or how much money you were born into, we can all make something of ourselves. We can clock in at a job that rewards our work with dignity and security. We can give our kids something better if we're willing to work for it and instill in them the values of hard work and respect for other people and love of country and the notion that here in America we're all in it together, that we are the United States of America. We're a union. And those are the beliefs that built this country. Those are the beliefs that built the strongest middle class the world's ever seen. But it wasn't just beliefs, it wasn't just words that built the middle class in this country. You know, you got to say more than America's great and that's it. You got to work for it. It's not enough just to say America's exceptional, you got to prove it. You got to work to keep it that way. And that's what generations of the labor movement have done. It was hard-working Americans who marched and organized to help working families get ahead. It was hard-working folks who demanded not simply a bigger paycheck for themselves, but more security for the folks working next to them, too. They were the ones who were out in the cold on picket lines. They were the folks who were dealing with the Pinkertons. They were the folks who sometimes got beat or got fired for organizing, got threatened, and stood up for an idea that everybody deserves a fair shake. And those folks, your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, they're the ones who gave us the 40-hour work week. They're the ones who gave us overtime and the minimum wage and all kinds of things that folks now take for granted. It was those fights that gave us health insurance and Social Security and Medicare and retirement plans. All those gains are union-made. They're stamped with the union label. They're what we celebrate today. And those values that built the middle class, working people's values, ordinary folks' values, that's what's guided me every day as president. I came in during the worst recession any of us have ever seen. And we've worked to rebuild our economy on a new foundation, to make it stronger for everybody. It's working folks who helped power our economy to 66 straight months of private sector job growth, the longest streak on record. Five and a half straight years, 13.1 million new jobs overall, the lowest unemployment rate in 7 years. It was working people. Middle-class values that restored the meaning of the word made in America, made in the USA. We had an auto industry that was flat on its back when I came into office. Now we're on track to sell more cars and trucks this year than we have in more than a decade. American manufacturing had been declining for a decade. And then we came in and we nearly created 900,000 jobs in 5.5 years. Fastest manufacturing growth that we've seen in a very long time. When I came into office, business leaders said the best place to invest was in China. Well, they don't say that no more. Now the number one place to invest is right here in the United States of America. That's because we got the best workers in the world. That's progress. Now, we're entering into political season. I'm so glad I'm not on the ballot. But it's political season. It starts earlier and earlier, and so now we're starting to hear a lot about middle-class values. Everybody wants to talk about the middle class. But some folks seem confused about what exactly that means. So let me provide a refresher course. For me, for us, middle-class values means providing tax cuts to 98% of Americans, but then asking the top 2% to pay a little bit more. That's helping middle-class families. For us, middle-class values means protecting Main Street from another crisis with the toughest Wall Street reforms in history that your senators helped to make happen. It means reforming student loans and increasing Pell Grants so every kid can afford a college education. And we've got to keep working to make 2 years of community college free for everybody who's willing to work for it. It means helping 16 million Americans gain the security of health insurance, because nobody in America should have to live in fear of going broke just because they or somebody in their family got sick. That's what it means to us to have middle-class values. And we know we've got more work to do to make sure more families feel the gains of this recovery. But the fact is, the verdict is in. Middle-class economics works. Looking out for working people works. Bottom-up economics works. Middle-class out economics works. When you make sure everybody gets a fair shot and a fair shake, and you're fighting for decent wages for workers, and making sure they've got decent benefits, when you reward people who are playing by the rules, that's how everybody does better. That's how America gets ahead. That's how it's always been in this country. Unfortunately, there are some folks in Washington and some folks who are trying to get to Washington who don't want to face these facts. No matter whether we're supporting working families or signing up folks for health care or anything else that we do, we keep on hearing back from them, oh, you're going to destroy jobs. You're going to destroy business. You're going to crush freedom. You can't have a minimum wage for people. It's bad for business, bad for jobs. You can't provide people health care. It's going to destroy the economy. In their world, the only way to help the country grow and help people get ahead is to cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires and loosen up rules on big banks and polluters, and then you just wait, and then you look up at the sky and prosperity will come raining down on us from the top of the whatever high rise is in your city. But that's not how the economy works. That's not how working people get ahead. And that mindset, that ideology is what's been shrinking wages and increasing inequality and wrecking the economy for a long, long time. And we're fighting to reverse it, but these folks are pretty stubborn. I will give them credit. They don't let facts or evidence get in the way. They really don't. And as I said, Republicans in Washington are trying to rebrand themselves as the party of the middle class. I'm glad they're doing it, really. I mean, I want them to start rethinking their positions on issues. I'd love to work with them on stuff. But you can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. You can't talk middle class and then do things that hurt the middle class. You can't say you care about working people and then do things that hurt working people. I'll give you an example. Right now, Republicans in Washington have the chance to prove they really care about working families. Congress has to pass a budget by the end of this month, or they risk shutting down the government for the second time in 2 years. Now, everybody knows the world economy is pretty volatile right now. Our economy is a relative bright spot. We're doing better than just about everybody else. So a shutdown would be completely irresponsible. It'd be an unforced error, a fumble on the goal line. You know, it'd be like a ground ball slipping through somebody's legs. You know? You guys have won a couple since that time, so I can make that joke. If you hadn't had so many World Series wins, I wouldn't make that joke. Point is, it doesn't have to happen. Congress can pass a budget that does away with this so-called sequester that just lops things off, whether it's good or not for the economy, harms our military, hurts working people. We could instead invest in working families, invest in our military readiness, invest in our schools, rebuild our roads, rebuild our ports, rebuild our airports, put people back to work right now. I'll sign that budget. I'm ready to work with them. But so far, at least, instead of hearing about how we can all move together, what we're hearing from those folks is threats that they might shut down the government over things that don't even have to do with the budget. Try to stop the budget in order to force us to do something that would restrict women's health care, for example. That's not a good idea. And you're seeing all kinds of mindless proposals that would harm our military readiness and cut job training, cut Head Start, cut preschools, cut K through 12 education. They're still talking about repealing Obamacare. I mean, they've taken 56 votes to repeal this thing. Everybody says it's working. It's working better than even I expected. And costing less, and they're still talking about repealing it. And what we're seeing from them is this constant war against unions, a constant attack on working Americans by weakening worker protections, undermining workplace safety, gutting your ability to save for retirement, preventing you from forming a union. I mean, this is a party that says it wants to rebrand itself. I'm going to quote them here. They said they want to be the party of the American worker and the party of higher wages. Well, that's great. But think about it. They oppose raising the minimum wage. They're doing everything they can to bust unions. And then they want to claim to be the party of the American worker. Take a look at some of the folks who want to be their standard bearer in the next election. I won't say their names, but you can kind of attach the quote to their names. So one candidate, he is bragging about how he destroyed collective bargaining rights in his state. And says that busting unions prepares him to fight ISIL. I didn't make that up. That's what he said. Really? A whole bunch of them are hoping to make right to work the law of the land. They think that's the answer to economic prosperity. You had one who blamed unions for the women's pay gap. Think about that. So what, if there were no unions, then suddenly women are all going to be paid equal? These are the same folks who fought against equal pay legislation in Congress. And then there was the guy, these guys are running for office. They're running for the presidency, who said, a union deserves a punch in the face. Really? Tell me how you really feel. It reminds me of something our old friend Ted Kennedy used to say. What is it about working men and women that they find so offensive? Why are they so mad about folks just trying to make a living, keep a roof over their heads, go to work every day, look after their families, rebuild their community? Why are you mad about that? These are the folks who built America. These are the folks that allowed businesses to prosper. Why are you attacking ordinary people who are just out there trying to do their jobs? I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I were looking for a good job that lets me build some security for my family, I'd join a union. If I wanted somebody who had my back, I'd join a union. I travel a lot. I've been to countries that don't have unions, that prohibit unions. That's where you've got still child labor. That's where you have terrible exploitation and workers are constantly being injured and hurt and there are no protections. And that's true for everybody because there's no union movement. Even Brady's happy he's got a union. They had his back. So you know, if Brady needs a union, we definitely need unions. So because the fact of the matter is, even kids understand this, you're stronger when you stand together. And a job's about more than a paycheck. Employees are more than just cogs in the wheel. They're moms and dads with dreams for their kids. They're folks who pick up the extra shift to help out another worker, who's in a jam. They're folks who are trying to save for retirement after years of sacrifice. Folks who clock in every morning and stay late to make sure the job's done right. And then donate some of that hard-earned money to their church or their YMCA. There's a pride and there's a dignity inherent in any job, whether you've got the security of a union or not, but a union will help express that dignity and that sense of voice in what you do every single day. And I believe that all workplaces should reflect the worth and the dignity of our working families. That's why we fought for worker safety. That's why we fight for the right to organize. That's why we're hosting a White House summit on worker voice next month, to make sure that working Americans share in the blessings of this country, and why people who aren't in unions right now need to understand why unions are so important. That's why last summer we hosted a working family summit to talk about issues like higher pay and fair pay and child care and workplace flexibility and paid leave. These things aren't just good for working women and working families, they're good for business too. They're good for the economy as a whole. Now, the good news is, for the past couple of years, working in concert with great members of Congress, like Ed and Elizabeth, we've taken steps to address some issues facing working families. And we've had the cooperation of governors and mayors in a lot of places. 17 states, about 30 cities, have answered the call to raise the minimum wage. I raised wages for federal contractors. In June, we proposed action to protect a worker's right to overtime, extending protection to as many as 5 million Americans who weren't getting a fair shake when it came to overtime rules. It's a pretty straightforward proposition. If you're working harder and longer, you should get paid for it. I believe that you should be able to talk openly about how much you get paid to make sure everybody's getting paid the same. That's how we know if there's unfairness in the workplace. That's something Lilly Ledbetter had to deal with and helped contribute to the pay gap. So last spring, I acted to combat pay secrecy. Working with Tom Perez, we are finalizing a rule this week that makes sure that what people are getting paid is out there, so you know if you're getting cheated. If you find out you're getting shortchanged, you shouldn't live in fear of getting fired. Because you raise your voice, you should be able to press your claim. And I believe that working Americans should have the basic security of paid leave. Right now, we are the only advanced nation on earth that does not guarantee paid maternity leave. Think about that. One study found that nearly 1 in 4 working moms return to work within 2 weeks of childbirth. Think about that. Now, for the men in the audience in particular, think about that. We wouldn't even go to work if we had to carry around somebody for 9 months. The human race would evaporate. We couldn't even take it. And then the notion that after you had that baby, you had to go back to work 2 weeks later. Only 12% of our private sector workers have access to paid family leave. We got millions of people who can't care for a loved one with a serious illness without losing a paycheck or risking their job. And there's a good proposal out there, the Family Act, that would deal with some of these issues. I'm calling on Congress, take a cue from the rest of the world, work together in a bipartisan fashion. Find a way to make paid leave, paid family and medical leave a reality for all Americans. That's something we should be doing. It's past time to do it. It'll be good for business, not bad for business. And while we're at it, pass a national policy for paid sick days as well. Right now, about 40% of private sector workers, 44 million people in America don't have access to paid sick leave. You've got parents who have to choose between losing income or staying home with their sick child. You have victims of domestic violence or sexual assault who can't seek medical attention or counseling because they might have their pay docked. Let's face it, nobody wants a waiter who feels like they have to come to work when they're coughing or contagious. But if they don't have sick leave, what are they going to do? They got to pay the rent. That's not good for anybody. Now, unfortunately, only Congress has the power to give this security to all Americans. But where I can act, I will. And by the way, I just did. As we were flying over here, I signed a new executive order requiring federal contractors to allow employees who work on our contracts to earn up to 7 paid sick days a year. This will give about 300,000 working Americans access to paid sick leave for the first time. And it builds on the growing momentum of people who are answering the call on paid leave across the country. Right now, you've got dozens of cities, Pittsburgh, Philly, Atlanta, who've adopted paid sick leave or paid family leave policies. You've got companies like Hilton and Johnson & Johnson and others that are expanding paid leave. Microsoft, Facebook, requiring it from their contractors and vendors. And we've seen that many companies, including small businesses, support these policies because they understand it helps with recruitment and retention. It helps you keep good employees. One study in Connecticut shows that 3/4 of companies are on board with their state's paid sick leave law. And here in Massachusetts, you're already ahead of the game. Last fall, folks easily approved paid sick leave throughout the Commonwealth. In May, Mayor Walsh signed an ordinance allowing for up to 6 weeks of paid parental leave for city employees. You all should be proud of what you're doing for working families in this state. But, you know, that's not a new story here in Massachusetts. Y'all have always been a little ahead of the curve. Almost 2 centuries ago, there were the Mill Girls up in Lowell, the nation's first union of working women. Folks in Boston helped lead the way to an 8-hour workday. Generation by generation, from the textile and trolley workers to the hotel and parking workers of today, hardworking men and women, like all of you in this Commonwealth, have stood up for working families. And what's been true in Massachusetts has been true all across the country. You understand that we're stronger together than when we're apart. When we are together, we carry each other up to heights we can't reach on our own. And that's what we honor every day on Labor Day. And whenever I'm with you, I'm optimistic about America. Because while I know that it's not going to happen in 1 day or 1 month, won't even be completed under 2 terms of one president, I know, working together, we're going to build a better future for ourselves and our kids and for working families all across the country. I have seen it, you have seen it, and now we've just got to keep working to make it a reality for every single working person in America. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless this country we love. Thank you.
Oh, that's some copywritten music. You know how we are with copywritten music. We're not allowed to do it. I am going to take you to Friday's video where Obama met with Saudi King Salman. Let's see, it was his first visit to the White House. So this is his first visit to the White House since January. Longtime allies find themselves at odds on several issues, particularly over Iran's increased role in the region. So this should be an interesting conversation, and I'm going to turn that on for you now.
Well, it's a great pleasure to...
Give me 2 seconds to get this lower third up.
Everybody ready? Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome His Majesty King Salman to the Oval Office. This is the latest of several meetings that I've had with His Majesty, and the fact that he has chosen to take this first visit to the United States is indicative of the long-standing friendship between the United States and Saudi Arabia.
إنه من دواعي سروري العظيمة بأن أرحب بخادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان هنا في المكتب البيضاوي في البيت الأبيض، وطبعا هذا هو الاجتماع الأخير يعني آخر الاجتماعات في سلسلة من الاجتماعات الكثيرة التي عقدتها مع خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان، ولا سيما يسعدني بأنه اختار أن تكون زيارته الأولى إلى الخارج إلى الولايات المتحدة، وهو يعني تعبير عن الصداقة العميقة بين البلدين.
This is obviously a challenging time in world affairs, particularly in the Middle East.
طبعا هي أوقات مطعمة بالتحديات في الساحة العالمية ولا سيما في منطقة الشرق الأوسط.
And so we expect this to be a substantive conversation across a wide range of issues.
نتوقع بأن يكون هذا النقاش في اجتماع اليوم ذات مغزى عميق في شتى الملفات والقضايا الرئيسية.
We share a concern about Yemen and the need to restore a functioning government that is inclusive and that can relieve the humanitarian situation there.
طبعا لدينا الكثير من نواحي القلق وبواعث القلق المشتركة تجاه الشأن اليمني تجاه اليمن ولا سيما في حاجة إلى إعادة أن يكون هنالك حكومة تعمل بشكل مؤثر على تخفيف وطأة الأزمة الإنسانية التي يعاني منها اليمن اليوم.
We share concerns about the crisis in Syria and we'll have the opportunity to discuss how we can arrive at a political transition process within Syria that can finally end the horrific conflict there.
وطبعا نشترك في الكثير من بواعث القلق تجاه الأزمة في سوريا واليوم ستكون فرصة لأن نتحدث ونغوص في الحديث حول يعني إمكانية تحقيق مسار سياسي للانتقال السياسي في سوريا ومن شأنه أن يخفف من المأساة المروعة التي تحدث في سوريا.
We continue to cooperate extremely closely in countering terrorist activity in the region and around the world, including our battle against ISIL.
ونواصل العمل الثنائي والتعاون الثنائي بشكل وثيق جدا في التصدي للإرهاب والنشاطات الإرهابية في المنطقة وحول العالم ولا سيما أيضا في الكفاح والنضال ضد تنظيم داعش.
And we'll discuss the importance of effectively implementing the deal to ensure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon while counteracting its destabilizing activities in the region.
وأيضا سنتحدث في أهمية أن نقوم بتطبيق الاتفاق النووي بشكل مؤثر بشكل لا يسمح لإيران بقيادة السلاح النووي وفي نفس الوقت يحد من تصرفات إيران المزعزعة للاستقرار في المنطقة.
We'll also have an opportunity to discuss the world economy and energy issues, and I look forward to continuing to deepen our cooperation on issues like education and clean energy and science and climate change, because His Majesty is interested, obviously, ultimately in making sure that his people, particularly young people, have prosperity and opportunity into the future. And we share those hopes and those dreams for those young people, and I look forward to hearing his ideas on how we can be helpful.
طبعا ستكون اليوم أيضا فرصة للتطرق إلى موضوع الاقتصاد العالمي وقضايا ذات الصلة بالطاقة وبتعميق عرى التعاون في مجالات التربية ومجالات الطاقة النظيفة ومجالات العلوم والتغير المناخي. وأيضا خادم الحرمين الشريفين مهتم بأن يعني يكون هنالك فرص للشعب السعودي تستفيد من كل هذه المجالات من أجل أن يكون هنالك فرص للشباب والشعب السعودي والشباب السعودي بالرخاء وفرص من أجل مستقبل زاهر. نشترك معه في هذه الآمال وهذه الطموحات ونتطلع إلى التعمق في كل هذه المجالات.
So, Your Majesty, welcome, and let me once again reaffirm not only our personal friendship, but the deep and abiding friendship between our two people.
خادم الحرمين الشريفين مرة جديدة أهلا وسهلا بكم، وهي فرصة ليس فقط لتعميق الصداقة الشخصية وإنما أيضا الصداقة الطويلة الأمد والعميقة جدا بين البلدين.
وأنا سعيد أن أكون بضيافتي اليوم، وأنا تعمدت أن تكون أول زيارة لي في الولايات المتحدة، لأن العلاقات بين المتحدة وبين السعودية علاقات كريمة جدا منذ عهد الرئيس الملك عبد العزيز سوى اجتماع كان في البحر.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for allowing us to enjoy your hospitality. I intended to make my first official visit to the United States as a symbol of the deep and strong relationship that we have with the United States. It's indeed historic relations that go back to the day when King Abdulaziz met with President Roosevelt in 1945.
وكذلك نحن نعتبر علاقتنا مع الولايات المتحدة علاقة مفيدة للعالم، مفيدة لمنطقتنا كذلك، وهذا شيء نحن نؤكد عليه ونريد دائما أن يكون بيننا علاقات وثيقة وتعاون في كل المجالات.
Our relationship is beneficial not only to our two countries, but to the entire world and to our region. And this is significant, and we must always affirm that and deepen such relations. We always emphasize that we want to deepen our relations and further our cooperation in all fields.
نريد أن يكون دائما في تعاون بين أبناء البلدين في كل الأعمال حتى يكون دائما هناك مصالح مشتركة وتعاون مشترك، إضافة عن التعاون السياسي مع الدولة.
As you know, Mr. President, our economy is a free economy. Therefore, we must allow opportunities for business people to exchange opportunities, because if people see that there are common interests, they will further themselves the relations between them, and our relationship must be beneficial to both of us, not only on the economic field, but on the political and military and defense fields as well.
مرة ثانية أقول أنا سعيد أن أكون هنا مع صديق في بلد صديق، ونعمل إن شاء الله دائما وعلاقاتنا مستمرة بما يفيد السلم العالمي في كل العالم، ومنطقتنا كذلك كولاية خط الريف هناك أحداث فيها نحن عندنا تعاون كامل مع الولايات المتحدة، ويهمنا الاستقرار. نحن بلدنا عندنا ما في حاجة شيء، لكن يهمنا أن يكون هناك استقرار في المنطقة يخدم شعوب المنطقة.
Once again, Mr. President, I'm happy to come to a friendly country to meet a friend, and we want to work together for world peace. Our region must achieve stability, which is essential for the prosperity of its people. And in our country, thank God, we are prosperous, but we want prosperity for the entire region, and we are willing to cooperate with you in order to achieve that.
أشكر فخامة الرئيس على حسن ضيافته، وأكرر مرة أخرى على سعيد الزيارة، ونأمل شكل زيارات للمملكة وزيارات من أمريكا بكل مسؤولية.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your hospitality, and I look forward to seeing you in Riyadh and seeing American officials coming to see us in Riyadh, and also Saudi officials coming to the United States.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. We're going to head out now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
We're done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done. Keep moving. We're heading out.
Looks like, oh, there we go again, sorry.
Everybody ready?
Yep.
Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome His Majesty King Salman to the Oval Office. This is the latest of several meetings that I've had with His Majesty, and the fact that he has chosen to take this first visit to the United States is indicative of the long-standing friendship between the United States and Saudi Arabia.
إنه من دواعي سروري العظيمة بأن أرحب بخادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان هنا في المكتب البيضاوي في البيت الأبيض، وطبعا هذا هو
عبد العزيز أول اجتماع كان في البحر.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for allowing us to enjoy your hospitality. I intended to make my first official visit to the United States as a symbol of the deep and strong relationship that we have with the United States. It's indeed historic relations that go back to the day when King Abdulaziz met with President Roosevelt in 1945.
وكذلك نحن نعتبر علاقتنا مع الولايات المتحدة علاقة مفيدة للعالم، مفيدة لمنطقتنا كذلك، وهذا شيء نحن نركز عليه ونريد دائما أن يكون بيننا علاقات وثيقة وتعاون في كل المجالات.
Our relationship is beneficial not only to our two countries, but to the entire world and to our region. And this is significant, and we must always affirm that and deepen such relations. We always emphasize that we want to deepen our relations and further our cooperation in all fields.
كما يعرف الرئيس القدمي حر، اقتصادي حر، نريد أن يكون دائما في تعاون بين أبناء البلدين في كل الأعمال حتى يكون دائما هناك مصالح مشتركة وتعاون مشترك، إضافة على التعاون السياسي مع الدولة.
As you know, Mr. President, our economy is a free economy. Therefore, we must allow opportunities for business people to exchange opportunities, because if people see that there are common interests, they will further themselves the relations between them, and our relationship must be beneficial to both of us, not only on the economic field, but on the political and military and defense fields as well.
مرة ثانية أقول أنا سعيد أن أكون هنا مع صديق في بلد صديق، ونعمل إن شاء الله دائما تكون علاقاتنا مستمرة بما يفيد السلم العالمي في كل العالم، ومنطقتنا كذلك كما فقدت الرئيس هناك أحداث فيها نحن عندنا تعاون كامل مع الولايات المتحدة ويهمنا الاستقرار. نحن بلدنا الحمد لله ما احنا في حاجة شيء، لكن يهمنا أن يكون هناك استقرار في المنطقة يخدم شعوب المنطقة.
Once again, Mr. President, I'm happy to come to a friendly country to meet a friend, and we want to work together for world peace. Our region must achieve stability, which is essential for the prosperity of its people. And in our country, thank God, we are prosperous, but we want prosperity for the entire region, and we are willing to cooperate with you in order to achieve that.
أشكر الحاج الرئيس على حسن الضيافة، وأكرر مرة أخرى أنا سعيد بهذه الزيارة، ونأمل شكل زيارات المملكة وزيارات الأمريكية من كل المصريين.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your hospitality, and I look forward to seeing you in Riyadh and seeing American officials coming to see us in Riyadh, and also Saudi officials coming to the United States.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We're going to head out now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
We're done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi guys, that was President Obama. That was at Friday's meeting, and then we got a little sneak peek of Biden at the end. That was a special moment. Let's head over. This is Scott Walker from today. You saw a lot of the candidates today in Salem, hot on the campaign trail, and I've got a couple of minutes of Scott Walker over there too. We saw Carly during the morning show. I think we actually saw some of Carly and Bernie this afternoon too. But here is what we've got of Scott Walker.
It's a clear message. They didn't want us nibble around the edges. We needed to make sure we followed through on our campaign promises, because they sent such a clear message. They didn't want us nibble around the edges. They wanted big, bold reform. I said it's put up or shut up time was what I told them. Of course, I was an open caucus, so as you can imagine, that was the headline in the paper the next day. Walker says put up or shut up. But I think it's about time we told the politicians in Washington it's put up or shut up time. You told us we were going to repeal Obamacare if you elect the Republican Senate. It's time to actually deliver on it. You said that we're going to stand up for the American people. Well, it's time to prove it. I think the frustration is not just with Obama. It's not just with the Democrats. It's even with some of the Republican leaders down there who made promises they're not able to deliver on now. Well, I hope the one thing you've seen from my state is, not long after saying that to our Republicans in the legislature, saying put up or shut up, about a month or two later, we took office. The very first day after taking the oath of office, I had our state sign up to be a part of the lawsuit against Obamacare. I called the legislature into a special session to start taking power away from the government, putting it back into the hands of the people. And going forward, not long after that, about a month after that, we introduced the big bold reforms that challenged collective bargaining and took power out of the hands of the big government union bosses and put it firmly into the hands of the hardworking taxpayers in our state. I had somebody in the media here ask me earlier, how does it feel to be Scott Walker on Labor Day? I said, it's great, because I'm pro-worker and I'm pro-taxpayer. See, I'm glad to see the president's consistent, because earlier today, you may not have heard about it, but down in Boston, he came out of Washington, D.C. up to Boston, and he attacked me for the second year in a row. Last year, he actually came to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right before my election to attack me. And earlier this year, when I signed the law that made Wisconsin the 25th state in the nation to have the freedom to work through right-to-work legislation, he came out and attacked me then. And you know why he did it today as well? Because they're doing something right. You're right. Because out of all these great candidates, and there's many out there, you know who people like the president and Hillary Clinton and the left fear the most? Me. Not because the others don't mean it, but because I've actually stood up against everything they had. Not long after taking office, not long after pushing our reforms, they helped send in over 100,000 protesters. They did death threats against me. They did threats against my family. They did threats against our state senate. And you know what? We didn't back down. They tried to intimidate us because that's what they do at the local, at the state, the federal level, and we didn't back down. And we got through that. In fact, they were so threatened by this, they had 14 Senate Democrats get up and leave the state of Wisconsin and go to Illinois. After we were all said and done, one of my favorite bumper stickers is one where somebody gave me, it said, 1 walker beats 14 runners. Because we didn't back down, and they tried to take out a member of the Supreme Court. We didn't back down. They tried to take out 6 of our state senators. We didn't back down. They tried to make me a model for the rest of the country for the left by taking me out in a recall election. We didn't back down. They made me the #1 target last year in the re-election. In the Senate, in the House, and Governor, in the entire country, I was #1 target for the labor unions and the left. We didn't back down. If you elect me as your next president, I will not back down any day, anyhow, anyway. I will fight and win for you and your families. So there's a lot of good people out there. But I understand why voters are a little bit suspect. Because you see, you voted for people in the past who sounded pretty good, who said the right thing. And then they didn't do it. They backed down. They were a little bit intimidated. They were pushed back in Washington. America made an even bigger mistake. I doubt any of you here did, but America made a pretty big mistake back in 2008 when they put someone in office who'd never run anything, who'd never been in charge of anything in government, who didn't have any experience, who promised hope and change. Well, we don't have any hope left, and all we got is change in our pockets, right? So it's about time we put someone who's been tested. I have been tested more than anyone in this race. When we talk about taking power out of the hands of the elite in Washington and putting it back into your hands here and in every other state across America, you don't have to doubt it, because I don't back down. I don't back down in Wisconsin, and I'm not going to back down in Wisconsin. I ask for your vote. I'll be back often. Thanks for having me out here today. God bless you, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
All right, guys, 5 more minutes.
And that was Scott Walker in Salem campaigning with Bernie Sanders we saw, and Carly Fiorina, we saw her earlier. Hopefully we'll get more footage in from that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up though, because it's 5 o'clock, which means if you're local, you can turn on our local 5 o'clock broadcast. Hi, look who's popping in.
With maintenance, and we need to clean up this area.
It really is dirty, but this is not me. Jude, are you going to talk to me tonight?
Certainly. What time do you want? Is this
I saw
a promo?
Yeah, this is a promo. I saw a really cute movie this weekend, and I want to talk to you about it.
Okay, I'll take a knee on that note.
The Man Called Uncle. Have you heard of it?
The Man from Uncle.
Oh, is it from
Ilya
Uncle?
Kuryakin, Robert Vaughn. It was
Did
the
you
60s.
see it?
I saw it back in the 1960s.
But did you see the new one?
I didn't see the new
It's
one.
really good. We can talk about it.
Ilya Kuryakin and
That's why I did my eye makeup like this.
The Man from Uncle. No, great. No, it was a very popular show. when I was a really young kid, and it was in
and
that.
It's the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, what's interesting about that era is that they had, we were in the middle of the Cold War, and you had Get Smart.
Yeah.
And Maxwell Smart. That was kind of a takeoff of a special agent gone awry here, and then you have a real serious series. I'm going to say it was like, you can Google it, 1966 to 68. Robert Vaughn and Ilya Kuryakin. Just for your Man from U.N.C.L.E. trivia buffs.
Cool,
okay?
I love it. All right, so you're going to come and talk to me tonight.
Yes, we'll talk Man from U.N.C.L.E.
All right, I love you. So turn on channel 10 because our 5 o'clock broadcast is on. If you don't live locally, you can watch it anywhere in the world via our free iPhone or Android app. You can download that at fox10phoenix.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. I will see you 6:30 to 9.